I've got a lot of things going on in the back of my car here, and it's not always this busy in my vehicle. But irrespective of whether I'm going to work or I'm out on a day trip or I'm going camping, there are some essential things that I keep in a couple of containers and in bits and pieces around my car. It doesn't matter where I go, those things will always be in my vehicle. And I'm just about to run you through my vehicle EDC kit. I'm Clarice, welcome to the Live Ready channel. You don't always have to have a fridge in the back of your car. I've just got it in here because I'm keeping some things cold at the moment. What I do usually keep in my vehicle is these ammo crates from Frontrunner. I really like them. They seal very well and they're really durable and they stack nicely. So I've chosen them because they don't roll around in the back of my car and I can easily organize my kit. Each one of these has a different function and I've labeled the two at the back. I'm going to show you the one at the bottom. So this one is emergency, there's one at the back that's recovery, and then there's this one which is an unlabeled one that I kind of use for different things. In South Africa you can't park your car somewhere and leave valuable stuff in the back, so sometimes I use it for that. What I do have in here is just the inflate kit that I use to inflate and deflate my tires, and then I've got a bag in here that I just keep a spare set of clothes in. Now someone made a comment to me, I think it was on one of the survival skills courses with African Sky 4-Wheel Drive Academy. They said whenever you travel, especially if you're off-road, best is to wear long pants, especially if you're going to end up in an area where you might need to recover yourself. And I've done this before. I've gotten myself horribly stuck in a riverbed at around 6 o'clock at night. It was 9 p.m. when I got home. We were 2 people who took 3 hours to recover 4 vehicles, and that's what got me out of there. Things can go sideways really quickly, so keep yourself a change of clothes, keep something warm. I've got a jacket in the recovery box as well that I'll get to now. This has a change of clothes in it. Sometimes I need to change at work before I can leave work. So then I need a change of clothes, and I've got a toiletry bag for that purpose as well. Hunter, can I take some space here? Can I put it down here? Hello, you're kind of in the way, thank you. I've got a blanket in the car. This is always useful to have. If you've got some sort of medical emergency, keep it next to your emergency medical kit. Mine's over here. It's in an easy to reach place. It's not even in a container. If you end up doing CPR on a person on the side of the road, your knees get grazed by the tar. So always put a blanket down next to the patient. You might also need to just put some sort of covering over the person. And the blanket has also come in handy when there has been an animal that I've need to move out of the road. I don't know, I've had to move an otter out of the road, and sometimes there are bookies and things and they can bite. So it's best to cover them with something and wear some gloves, which we will get to shortly. So these 2 containers are the ones that doesn't matter where I go, they absolutely will never leave my vehicle. So the one is emergency, it's labeled that way, and the other one's recovery. Now you would think that's a whole lot of recovery gear for one lady, for one vehicle. But I have friends who drive Land Rovers, and for their sake I keep decent recovery gear in the car. If I'm going to drive through sand, or I know that I might get stuck myself, then I'll add some Max Tracks or something to the vehicle. And even a chopping board has got me out of soft sand before. Those also work. Hessian bags are great if you are going to pack your vehicle for driving soft sand and stuff like that. Just think ahead. It's a good idea to always keep things like a medical kit or anything that you really need to get a hold of quickly in an easy to reach place. Right, so in my emergency box, I put the things that I tend to grab quickly on top. So things that I need, like emergency lights. So these 3 are emergency lights that have got little plates that kind of just stick onto my roof rack. And then I can very easily, because there's 3 of them, very easily just switch them on. There's different colors and all kinds of things. But they're quite bright. The only thing about them is they do need to be charged. So if you are going to keep things like that in your car that need to be charged occasionally, then do remember to charge them. I've also got the EcoFlow in here at the moment, so I can charge them, but they're USB-C chargeable, so I can charge them from any of the lighter sockets. Then I've also got kitty bowls and doggy bowls, and these are just their collapsible eating bowls. And we might actually give Hunter some water. Hey, you want some water? And then in the fridge today, we've got water. It is a good idea to actually keep a couple of bottles of water just in one of your emergency kits. You never know when you're going to need it. I have stopped at a stop and go on one of the roads that they were working on before, and because I've got a water tank on the roof rack, people come running up to me going, can we have some water? So a good idea to keep some water actually in your emergency kit. You never know, maybe you find someone along the way who's thirsty, maybe you stop somewhere, maybe you get stuck somewhere. So having a bit of emergency water is a great idea. This is going to be for Hunter. Good boy. Then extra spark plugs, always a good idea to know where they go as well, and ask the guys who service your vehicle for you to show you these things. Then this gas fitting actually goes on the gas bottle that's on the roof rack. I leave it in here. If I forget it, then my gas bottle is actually useless. And you might think that it's a whole lot of things, but I do actually use the gas bottle quite often. So for me, for my purposes, it's a good idea to just keep some sort of fitting for the gas bottle because it stays on the roof rack. Might as well keep a fitting for it. Then a couple of ratchet straps. These are always useful. I actually have at one point set up a tarp using 4 ratchet straps, and the shower curtain which fits on my roof rack as well makes a really good tarp. So because it's such nice thick fabric, and because it's already got grommets and loops on it, there are already 4 tie out points. Because they're ratchet, you don't need to tie out knots or anything. You literally just hook a hook onto a grommet or onto a loop, tie the other side onto a tree, and Bob's your uncle. You just tighten it until you've got the right tension and you've got a shelter. So it makes for a makeshift shelter, which is why I keep the shower curtain in the car. It's also got a couple of tent stakes in it, which have come in helpful before when I haven't expected to need tent stakes. Sometimes in high winds or so, if I've set the rooftop tent up and I'm having a hard time actually keeping the tent down and not blowing up and down in the wind, which can also be tricky, having some ratchet straps and tent stakes around is very useful. So I've got 4 of these. Sometimes I use them to tie wood onto my roof rack, or I've actually managed to fit my rooftop tent in the back of my car and put a cabinet on the roof rack. Okay, now we're getting to the fun stuff. So here's a bit of paracord. It's 550 paracord. I always keep it in my car, you never know. To be able to make a trucker's hitch with something like this, or this stretch of climbing rope. This is 7.5mm Mammoth climbing rope. It's a 4-meter stretch of climbing rope. You put this stuff into a trucker's hitch, you can tie anything down. And then just a bit of paracord makes it simple to put a washing line up around camp, or just to tie something quickly. A lighter, always useful. So this is actually a backup one that lives in the emergency box. There is one here also, which is exactly the same. You would think that's overkill, but it's not, because I do make fire everywhere I go, so it's useful for me to have a lighter. You can use your leads that you use to jumpstart the car to make fire if you've got a bit of steel wool in the back. A lot of people say, well, who carries steel wool to make an emergency fire? I do, because I think ahead. So it helps to think about the kinds of scenarios that you get yourself into. If you're never going to need to start a fire with steel wool and jumper cables, don't pack it. But for me, I've done that a couple of times before, not just on survival skills courses, but also just to make fire out in the bush. It's not good for your battery, but if you didn't bring the lighter, which is why I now have 2 lighters, if you didn't bring the lighter, it's a good idea to carry some steel wool, or maybe get it out of your camping kit. I've got a waterproof bag in here. I do sometimes get myself into water where I just want something that I can put all my dry stuff in, or I need a little bag to go and collect resources. So what sometimes happens is I drive quite far for work. What sometimes happens is I drive past some kind of resource in the bush, and in that moment I decide I'm going to go collect this because I need it for I don't know, some YouTube project or some survival skills project, or it's just something that I want to experiment with, and now I've got a little extra bag. It also is a great way to collect water for camp, and every now and then I pull it out of the back of the vehicle and take it on the boat or something like that. I keep this around. I really like it. You don't have to keep it. You don't have to keep half the stuff if it's not worthwhile to you. I have a bolt cutter in the car. I itch to use this thing. But the reason I have it is actually if I need to get through a lock or something's rusted or something like that, then I know that there's not a lot of things that's going to stop me or keep me in place. You're going to have a hard time locking me in anywhere. There are 2 other medical kits in here. Okay, so let me just quickly chat about the primary trauma kit. The primary trauma kit is the one that I grab if I've got an arterial bleed. And I actually recently have been in a situation where there has been an arterial bleed. And let me tell you this, there's actually not all that much you can do. You can tourniquet and you can pack the wound and you can hope that a surgeon is around to come and help you shortly, or you can get the patient to the hospital. But it is helpful to just at least be able to do that. Tourniquet top bottom if you can, and then pack the wound, see if you can just staunch the bleeding for as long as possible, but don't take it upon yourself to try and absolutely succeed, especially if you don't have a medical background. But useful to have 2 tourniquets and a lot of stuff to pack wounds. So this has stuff to pack wounds, this has stuff to pack wounds, this has stuff to pack wounds. So if I really have a bad injury that I need to take care of, I'll grab all 3 of them, but I'll start with this one, that one, which is the primary trauma kit. All right, the other thing that this one has, which is why it's in my car, is all of like headache tablets and treatment for nausea and diarrhea and stuff if we go camping or I'm just on a trip or something like that, and somebody goes, does anybody have something to treat a fever? I know I can treat a fever for at least 2 days. So even if I'm quite far away from any sort of pharmacy, I'm going to be able to manage whatever situation there is in this. Overly prepared much. Okay, getting to the bottom of this, I'll add this into like the medical stuff. It's a bit of whiskey. It's not the greatest treatment for survival purposes. It's going to dehydrate you more than if you have something like water or cool drink, but it will make you feel a whole lot better. If all my other fire starting methods fail, then I do have a ferrocerium rod. This is not a flint, by the way. It is a ferrocerium rod or a fire steel, makes sparks, and you can light stuff with it. Tissues are great for that purpose as well, and all the stuff in your medical kit. If you've got potassium permanganate and glycerine in your medical kits, you can start a fire with that and a bit of cotton wool. If you've got some petroleum jelly or Vaseline, that along with a fire seal actually on a piece of cotton wool is a great way to start a fire. So there's lots of stuff in your medical kit, a bit of alcohol, lots of stuff that you can dig through the medical kit to help you make fire too. So, and there's a lot of flammable stuff in the car as well. So really, if you've got a vehicle with you, you shouldn't have an excuse to not make a fire. Use your imagination. Some hairy situations in the snow where I've had to clamp my tent down, these are great. These are great for clamping a whole lot of things down. They are so solid. So I just keep these 2 clamps in the car. A welding glove is great for making a fire. You can always use a welding glove to like move hot coals or move hot things, or even to move an animal out of the road. Because it's a leather glove, it looks terrible actually, but because it's a leather glove, it protects your hands very well. For recovery purposes as well, if you need to work with something like a winch or so, it's best to wear gloves. In any situation where you need to recover something, or where you need to recover a vehicle, it's best to wear gloves. I know we don't always. A whole bunch of cable ties. I use them just in and around the vehicle actually. I grab them for all sorts of weird and wonderful purposes. I know they're in my car. I've actually got a couple sitting in the side here as well, in the side panel, just for easy access, so I don't need to grab them out. These are oven bags because you can boil water in an oven bag. You can see there's like a preparedness person and a survivalist, like a tug of war here. Okay, then a toolkit. So there's a socket tool in here, and there are some Allen keys and a spanner, number 13 spanner, and a bunch of Allen keys. Between these 3 you can do a whole lot. A lot of the things on my roof rack need a number 13 spanner, so I keep that one around. And then the socket tool. Do you know what the thing is with a socket tool? There's a lot of things that if you don't have a socket tool and you don't have the right size sockets, you're not going to get it undone very easily. Okay, then there's some super glue in here. This is good for medical purposes. Might as well go in the medical kit. A pair of scissors. There's a scissor in the medical kit also. And then a few bits and bobs. electronic stuff for the EcoFlow. I can trickle charge the vehicle's battery from the EcoFlow if I need to, if I'm really in trouble. And then there's also a charger here for the EcoFlow that I can charge the EcoFlow from one of the lighter sockets. Space blanket, which is always good for cold weather, and an emergency poncho, which you'll be surprised is actually great for if you're in the desert and you really don't have any water. You can make a solar still out of something like a plastic poncho. It does not yield a lot of water, but it might be worthwhile depending on where you are. Both of these are really good at insulating as well. They're basically plastic bags and you can catch water in them. So there's a lot of purposes that I keep these for, and they're so lightweight and so easy to just stack in a container. It's really worthwhile to just throw some in your car. Coffee, chai, tea, more coffee, something like that. Oh, and shame, Juniper's little harness, because Kitty does often come along and it just makes it easy to store it in the car. Alright, so that pretty much makes up the emergency box. From here on we look at the recovery box. Hunter. Hello doggy. Hello doggy. Are you looking after all the emergency gear? Hey? I keep a little plank in the back of my car. It is for the jack. There have been times when the jack just has not been high enough, or it's on some very strange terrain like this. Every now and then you recover a vehicle and it starts getting late, it gets dark and you get cold. If I open the recovery box, I wouldn't know that I've got a jacket close by. I've also got the gas extension hose for the gas bottle that's on my roof rack. There was a time when I was in the Mattersburg and I did not expect to have to need something similar to a blowtorch, and I have used this to actually, let's call it, fix my tent. So what happened was a part of my tent broke. The pole broke inside one of the four corner joins, and I was supposed to take the piece that had broken off in the join out of the join, and I forgot to do that at home. I got a replacement pole, but I couldn't get that out of the joint. So I've used this to actually heat up the outer pole that the inner one was stuck in, so that I can get the inner one out and put the new pole in. Every now and then something weird like that happens. If you know that you tend to get yourself into situations like that, do yourself a favor and keep this sort of thing around. If you're short either a medical kit or jumper cables in your car, pause this video right now and go put it in your car, because you should not be without those ever, or a jack for that matter. Jumper cables, like I said, I use them to make fire if I'm really desperate. I use it on survival skills courses as well. And then the other thing is, if you need to jump start your vehicle battery, which I might have to do because I make fire from the battery, then you need jumper cables for that purpose, and absolutely cannot be without those. Then I've got a hose which has got a jiggler on it just to get the fuel out of the jerry cans. If you've got jerry cans on your vehicle, anywhere on your vehicle, look, it's best to always store fuel on the outside of your vehicle. But to save yourself a whole lot of trouble, it's easier, especially if you're alone a lot of the time, then trying to carry full jerry cans of fuel down from your roof rack can be quite difficult. So if you've got something like this, then the jiggler goes in the fuel can and this side goes in your tank, and you just jiggle it and the fuel runs into your fuel tank from your roof rack. So this makes that a whole lot simpler. There should be a hose extension in here, a jerry can fitting in here as well. No, jerry can fitting. I use this to desalinate water. I know it's not like the normal purposes for these things, but I take a jerry can, put it on the fire, take a piece of hose, it can be something like the water pipe from your water tank, kind of attach that in here somehow and that on there, and then desalinate water that way. But yeah, its primary purpose is actually to just get fuel out of your jerry can. Tire fix. I've got this in here. It has let me down before. So there was a time that it was really late at night and I needed to get my vehicle to somewhere that they could fix a tire for me the next day. There was a nail or something in it. I have a tire fix kit. I really struggle to use this. It's really difficult to fix one of my tires. I see it's come through the packet. To fix one of my tires, because they're so thick. So for me, it's a whole lot easier actually to remove my spare wheel and just change your wheel. By the way, if you are a woman and you struggle to actually lift one of the wheels, because these 4x4 wheels are incredibly heavy, I find the easiest thing to do is to put the wheel on top of your legs and use your legs to lift the wheel up to where it should be, because trying to lift it with your arms to fit onto the bolts is really, really tricky. It's very heavy, so it's just easier to try and lift it while it's sitting on your legs.
Put the tire on all by
I kept on
yourself.
going, my tire is too heavy for me to lift it, and it was, until like they showed me that technique. It really makes a difference.
So you
Because
literally
you can't, I
sit
can't lift it.
Yeah, but you rest it on your legs.
Yeah, so I basically sit with it like this, and then on your legs you can get it up, and then you can also got some more control over where the nuts have to go. Sitting on your legs. I know people say, yeah, but what if the car comes off the jack? Well, then you've done a rubbish job at putting the car on the jack. Don't do that. I know it's not ideal, it's not really good for your tires. You know, you put it in and then they say, yeah, but it eats away at the inside of your tire. Well, when you get to a tire shop, then ask them to rinse it out. But it's better to have something like this and never use it than to need it and not have it. Recovery strap. I think I recovered so many vehicles that night. I'm over recovery for the rest of my life. This is a 12-ton recovery strap, and then I think this is an 8-ton jack. Yeah. So the 8-ton jack is nice because it's got the screw out part here, and then it's got another part that extends, so it comes out a little bit higher than my car's original jack. Often these vehicles have a jack in them that is ideal for use on the road. This is a little better for if you're off-road, and then a couple of D shackles that I've actually never used, come to think of it. What are you for? One glove. I must have used the other one in a fire because this one's been in a fire. I wonder where your friend is. Okay, then there are a few more things that every now and then I get to have a little bit of fun with. There are 2 consoles. They are stuffed with all kinds of interesting things. I have stopped at a place where they fixed my windscreen, and afterwards the guy came to me and said one of his guys drove my car into the workshop, and he got out and he said, does this vehicle really belong to a woman? Because I've got 2 axes in the car. There's one in the front as well. So there's this little hatchet. Then I always keep a fixed blade knife in the back, because every now and then I'm out in the bush and I've just got a Leatherman on me, and then I decide I want a fixed blade knife, or I'm busy chopping onions, or I'm busy making fire. It looks terrible, actually. I must clean it. But the fixed blade knife, this is a Becker Kepard BK62. This one, and then there's a little Gransfors Brook tiny belt hatchet. It also lives in here. So there's those 2 things. And then a mallet. Having some sort of convincing tool can be very helpful. Speaking of which, as far as convincing tools go, I also have a crowbar, predominantly for moving rocks, but it's also quite good for catching snakes. Between a snatch strap, a crowbar, a saw, which I've got over here, and an axe, there's not a lot of things that can stand in your way. Some of these big rocks might win, but for the most part I can move a lot of things out of the way. The saw is great for just gathering firewood. If you're just driving your vehicle around the city, then I think a lot of this stuff isn't going to apply. A whole collection of tent stakes and cable ties and a spoon, because the last time I forgot my spoon I had to carve myself some chopsticks from sticks from the bush. So there's a spoon, and then that lighter lives in there, and then there are 2 torches here. This one is to find scorpions. If you need to survive in the wilderness, you can eat a scorpion. I caught this guy this morning and I've removed the stinger, and then I used my knife just to poke him between the eyes, so he is dead. To cook him, I'm simply going to skewer him. Left him on the fire a little bit long, but all good. I found a scorpion in my garage this morning. A Swiss Peak, just a hand torch. I do also have 2 torches in the front of the car. Now that again feels like overkill, but let me tell you the story about when you go camping in the snow. All of your batteries run flat a whole lot faster. And you might have charged a battery. I mean, I've been in snow before and my batteries lasted me 2 days and it was fine. And then I was in snow and the temperature was just a little bit lower and all of my batteries failed after a day. So you can't really determine that, and even if you keep them warm, I mean, you can't walk around with absolutely every sort of battery in your clothing trying to keep it warm. So it helps to have backups and for different purposes. And then the last thing that's at the back here that I make good use of is a canteen cup, nesting cup combination. So this is a great way to boil water, make coffee, along with the spoon that's on the other side there. So it's just a nesting cup combination. You can see that it's seen a lot of use and wear. But if you ever need to boil water, this is actually a great way to warm yourself in cold climates. Just warm it up and you can put it inside your jacket and you've got yourself a hot water bottle. 2 more items that live in my vehicle as a permanent institution is 2 headlamps. Originally there was only one. This is my one. It's a black diamond headlamp, and this one was gifted to me by the guys from Expedition Extreme on a night when it was snowing. Batteries fail or they run flat a lot faster in the snow. So I was off wandering around in the dark with my headlamp and I find these guys camping not too far from me. So I stop in, and a couple hours later I'm going to mission back to my campsite now, but my headlamp doesn't work. And it's just forest and snow. You can't even see a road. It's been snowing for hours, and the lot of us have just been having a jewel by the side of their vehicle. And so what they did was they sent me off with one of their headlamps. So now this headlamp also lives in my vehicle, and if ever I need to donate a headlamp to someone, I can keep mine and pay it forward by sending them off with a new headlamp of their own. 4 lights plus 3, 7 lights. The other thing that I have seen happen before is someone comes to help recover your vehicle. They weren't planning on recovering your vehicle, or the situation might be reversed. But the end result is that you're short one headlamp for a person, and maybe you're in a really remote place, and it really just helps if you don't have to go around trying to recover vehicles with your cell phone flashlight in your hand. So something that mounts on your head, it's always useful to have a second headlamp. In fact, if I ever had to pay this light forward, it even says light on it, I would actually go and replace it with another just cheap headlamp. It's so worthwhile just having 2 headlamps in your vehicle. If you found value in this video, remember to hit like and subscribe. Follow me on social media. There's a whole lot of the everyday live-ready stuff that goes onto the Instagram page and the TikTok page and everywhere else. You can find the links in the description to this video. And until the next time, live ready.